morning, everyone. This is Cathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing here today with my dear friend, Jade Rehder. Hey, Jade.
Aloha, Cathy. Aloha, audience.
Yes. And Jade, I miss you. I have to say, I was sitting here like going, God, it's been years, it feels like. And boy, these have been interesting times, but you've been doing some cool stuff. So everyone who doesn't know Jade, this is really truly an alchemist. That's what I call myself too, but she really had, she's put in a lot of work, and she has international studies and processes behind her, whereas I'm just doing stuff. But
you've been doing stuff since you were born, Cathy. So we gotta own that. It's been, like innate and natural, right?
See you.
Okay. I see you, darling.
So well, Jade, one of the last times we talked, we were talking about clears, which is capital K, capital L, capital E, capital A, capital R, S, which are these processes that help empaths navigate. And then it sounds like you've really evolved to higher things. So catch us up. I mean, honestly, everybody, you're going to love what Jade does. So,
well, mahalo, nui loa, Cathy. So, clears are still here. Clears are still happening. And I've spent the last 7 or 8 months walking with 20 other naturally empathic people to put together a book and a summit. And that has been an experience as an empath while you're walking other naturally empathic people through their stories of true perseverance and really their innate, the beauty of the gift of being naturally empathic. And let me share what empath is to me. It's someone who's awake in their lower body. So from heart down, you have extrasensory perception, and often from heart up. We can call these our clair gifts. We can call them our psychic gifts. Yet you are on an empowered path. So the EM I capitalize, then powered, and then PATH. And Cathy, when we worked together in 2016, we talked about this a lot because people will sometimes feel that being naturally sensitive and able to discern or experience often the energy of other people at such a visceral level can take people into truly the victim consciousness or the victim experience. And the universal laws are out there to explain to us how to play with things. My sweetheart the other day goes, honey, where'd the name Earth come from? And I go, I think the H moved to the end of heart. And he's like, what? And I'm like, well, that's how you spell it. Earth. And he's like, I said, we all came into this and we're all co-creating.
Right.
And it doesn't always feel like it. Yet when you learn how to self-regulate, and that's why this book came, when Rebecca Saltman, the co-compiler of this book, came to me in 2020 and said, I got a message on my walk that I need to talk to you and we need to work with empaths. And I thought, all right, here we go. We'll do this again. We'll play again in this realm.
Yeah. From
a view of knowing each and every person is whole as they are. It may not feel that way. And that's the tough part when we're empathic. It doesn't always feel as yummy as you can project it to be. And there's a lot of things over the years that I've had to walk into and walk back out of. Right. So everything isn't a fit for everyone, and nobody has the one fit wonder for the world, because everyone is innately their own sovereign expression.
Right.
And I'd been working on sovereignty for the last few years, really clearly, personally, after going through a wildfire experience.
Yes.
And I'm talking to Boulder, Colorado. When the fire happened in South Boulder County, my phone's blowing up because I went through this in Southern Oregon.
Yeah.
And I do have friends that were in South Boulder County who lost everything like I did.
Unbelievable.
And it's a Phoenix experience. And as someone who has a rising or ascendant at 26 and change of Scorpio, it was like my earthly experience of my ascendant energy. And what the heck does that mean? Well, the personality of my soul, some will say, is your ascendant energy.
Oh.
And boy, that for me personally is truth.
Oh,
So my sun sign, my Pisces, is the personality of my human. And that's super true. Can I care for you? Can I overgive to you? Can I take too much responsibility? At the same time, I'm trying to peacemake, and I can be totally and completely way the heck out there, ruled by Neptune. 5 planets in Pisces, folks. So I got a lot of that. Yet we're so much more than that. So, in the summit, you're going to hear stories from people from all different walks of life. In fact, different countries. You're going to hear from people who didn't know that their innate knowing was part of an empathic gift, yet they have always known. And, as a knower, I'm a knower feeler, both really strong. I didn't turn those off. When I was 10, I turned off my clairvoyance and my telepathy. Those are back on. I turned them on at 33. So they've been on quite a while. Actually, same amount of time as I had them off, 23 years. So we all have such a capacity to be awake in our body. And the reason I feel this is important is personally my view. And again, everyone's view I respect. My view is we are all together waking this planet up through our bodies.
Yes.
And during this shutdown time is what I am willing to call it. We had a lot of people who all of a sudden noticed when they slowed down, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so much more than I knew I felt. I was speaking to one yesterday. Both a male and a female yesterday when I was working in a rock shop here, because I love to play with rocks and I like to talk to people. And so it's like a petri dish of fun. And they were both telling me how the quiet of the world increased their sensitivity. And that increase in sensitivity is, for some people, quite alarming and quite disturbing. And for others, it's quite exhilarating and quite exciting. So there's no right or wrong way to experience it, knowing that you can self-regulate. And that when you hear somebody else's story, that you go, wow, my life is kind of like that. You know that you aren't crazy. It's been it was 1999 when I started working with other people. So 23 years now. And one of the biggest things people say to me is, gosh, Jade, I thought I was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, no medical advice is given. If you're hearing voices in your head and they are just guiding you, you're clairaudient. If they're saying other things that are destructive or harmful, that's a totally different thing, and medical help is highly recommended. Yet,
clearing first and then mental health. Get rid of the attachments.
Get rid of the attachments. Yeah. Get yourself some help in whatever way you see is best. But maybe a little selenite. Gonna clean out.
I get that too.
Oh yeah, gotta clean out that field. I walk around the rock shop seleniting people all the time, and they're like, I feel totally different. And I'm like, yeah, you're an empath. And they're like, oh, I am. And, so, we can make things mean anything we want to. And we get to a place in our spiritual evolution where we want to stop making meaning. We want to stop identifying. And I understand that. And I go through it. And, so the label empath isn't something that people have to go, I'm going to put that on my chest and wear a tag. It's more an awareness so that that you too can move through this. So personally, my own experience was from empath to multidimensionality. Cathy watched a lot of this really solidify when we were working together,
Yes.
because it's something you're already doing, but that multidimensionality can be as simple as aware physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It goes way beyond that. Many of us are galactically aware, planetarily aware, collectively aware. And that's the thing. There are so many collective empaths right now that are experiencing this real disarray in our collective. I mean, we
Yes.
could look at finance, we can look at war, we can look at suppression, we can look at all those things, or we can look at movement, we can look at change, we can look at possibility, and we can look to notice that higher intellect of the Aquarian overlay, which I'm super happy is in massive play at this point.
Uh-huh.
Being someone who had we came in, if you're older than 20, you came in while the Piscean overlay was really at play. And that had a lot of us playing savior and hero, victim and martyr. Yet we have the opportunity to be more resourced and more ecological. And that's with our earth and with ourselves. Like good ecology with ourselves is taking time to do your own energy cleansing. It's taking the time to show up for those around you from your center. Cathy and I were talking before, things happen and then we have to go right back into the middle. So hands on the heart is my favorite way to get us there. And it's free.
Yes. Well, I found, I mean, I just love all of your work. I found that you had simplified how to process things. So instead of getting into a story, you could right away go, okay, I got that tool. Where's my Lemurian crystal? I got my tool. Am I clear? And I'm there. And that's what I really am excited about your work, the clears and this book, because I don't know how I know this, but I'm pretty sure that everyone's going to become empathic with these energies that are coming. I got that memo 20 years ago that that's why there were so many of us coming early with it, so that we could guide and help people, because it's disorienting when you can't figure out if it's yours or theirs.
Very disorienting if you
Very
don't know if it's yours. And, and then how the question people ask me is, well, how in the heck, even when I ask Jade, so I ask, is it mine? Now, how do I know I believe what I get? Well, that's building your trust muscle, right?
Right.
And that trust muscle is built with trusting yourself and listening to your intuitive nudges or instinctive pokes, right? Like we really, Christianity calls them prompts. So they're everywhere, right? It's like, I was prompted to do this. I got a nudge. I got a hit. Those are all the same thing. It means I had a knowing, or I had an awareness, or I had a feeling, or I had a stop feeling, right? So that, one of my favorites is to ask the body what it wants to eat, or ask what color clothes do I wear today. I asked. I didn't know I was wearing green. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I did. I mean, I go to the grocery store and I try to figure out which apples to get. And I'm sure if people don't understand what I'm doing, I'm testing on everything. In fact, I was talking to someone the other day and I said I did that. And they said, well, that's not as accurate as doing something else. Like, well, works for me. I don't have to have any appliances. I just, but people are looking at you and it's like, I don't care anymore. I have to say, what's happened with this whole period of being in the lockdown, that actually helped with trusting my abilities. I don't know about you, but I struggled with trusting it forever and needed validation from things. It was always checking, like I want to do good. Was that good? That kind of thing. And that this whole 2-year period for me, it felt like game on, here we go. So, but do you agree that people see? I feel like everyone's got to turn the ship to the Aquarian age. And one of the ways that humans can evolve to that is through this empathy virus, if you want to call it that, because that actually allows you to go into a room and feel the room, feel what's happening. Now, when you did the empath interviews and the book, did you find that people had, like, some people had it in their solar plexus, some people had it in their heart? Did you find that there was the sensory system that you feel as an empath was different in different people?
Yeah, it absolutely is different in different people.
About that? I'm curious.
I don't know that we specifically did, because they were author led interviews, so they got to pick their questions, which was wonderful. Because they knew what they wanted to share beyond their chapters, right? So their chapters are there and they're about something, but a lot of them brought some different information in for the interviews. And you know, my mom will tell you she filters everything through her mind, but my mom is a claircognizant, and Claire, you know, she innately knows, but then she'll run it through her mental to get the confirmation, like you're talking about, building that trust. Other people will clearly know, and then they'll run it through their emotional body. And some people will take everything to the heart. But if people have been through a lot of heart trauma, aka heartbreak of any kind, then they often have buildup around that. Emotion code would call it a heart wall, but you know, and so they're not necessarily feeling through their heart space as easily. So, you know, everybody's way is their way, and everyone's on their own journey of holding, aka healing themselves. And when we allow ourselves to allow the way we are to be okay,
right?
And one of the big pieces of why this book was done was to help others know they were okay being who they were in the moment, like who they are, who they were, who they will be, as opposed to this is not a bunch of stories of people in massive pain, empaths, because you're all like, because, you know, you don't want to read the story. I actually took me a while to agree to do a story book, because this group of stories is story. But everyone has been through what they're talking about. They talk about it without charge. Some of them had to go through evolution while they wrote it to complete the holding of that.
Good.
Yeah, we had a couple people whose chapters, they weren't ready to go into a book. Even just beginning to write the chapter brought them massive awareness.
Wow.
Brought them into, so there are quite a few people who are, we'll call them authors on the unseen in the book, because they did go into the experience and have it for themselves.
Wow.
And there's just so many different walks of life, from corporate America to energy workers to small business owners, all different kinds of people. 19 stories by people who identify as women, with a foreword written by someone who identifies as a man. And so it was really cool to have Andy write the foreword, because it brought in a different view. And he didn't know the word empath till he was in his 40s. I didn't know the word empath until 2004 or 5. I was just always called oversensitive. Yes. Or too much, right? Because empaths, everyone brings you their energy, right? And dumps it often in you, whether you know them or not. And then because you're holding so much energy, and I'll use the word holding on purpose in this moment, you know, you go, oh my, now what? Right? Like, what do I do here? How does this work? And people are like, your energy is so big. Someone just said it to me the other day, just last Friday. Jade, your energy is so big. And I said, tell me more. And she goes, I thought you were like 5'10". And she's like 5'3.5", and I'm like 5'4". So in her mind, there was, you know, a lot more. And empaths both receive, which we talk about a lot, but we also transmit.
That's right.
And I don't transmit as much as some others do naturally. I'm naturally, the Slurpee straw. That's why I do the drain and why I do self-sourcing every day, which are free resources on my website. Because the free resources, they're still clear up there, Cathy. So Cathy and I created an empath resource years ago. This is a newer version of it, but there's an audio for the drain, self-sourcing, which has changed some language, and a clear for stored anxiety, which gives you a little intake about what clear is and how really it's you working with you, and my voice being an alchemy conduit to support you. So
do you feel as okay, I'm gonna get a little out there. You ready?
I'm ready.
So I'm really I'm very into the UFOs and all of the stuff, and you used to, you've done a lot of events in Mount Shasta.
I have.
You were with me in Mount Shasta with
I
Richard
was.
and CN.
Yep.
And so how do you see that there's any connection between Palladians or ETs and the beings that you're seeing that are showing up as early empaths? Or their connection? Because for you, all those times you were in Shasta, you were getting tons of stuff.
My biggest ET experiences actually were in Hawaii, yet I had some in Shasta. I'm going to say that my innate knowing is that a lot of people who are early empathic people who are early awake in their bodies are more receptive to receiving those kind of transmissions. We have, I don't know how many NDEs in the group, people who have had,
really?
Who have had, I know one of them is in her story. So, and yet they were both very empathic beforehand. So sometimes it's an enhancement, life enhances our empathic experiences, sometimes through life changes. I would say that after the fire in 2020, I didn't notice till August 2021, back up on Mount Shasta doing a retreat, and the smoke was high, and I had body trauma that hadn't been cleaned up after it. So emotional, mental, spiritual was good about the fire. The physical body, even though I'd had a bunch of body work done, needed more care. So for me, everything's kind of unveiling itself just like it would around you, and being connected into the different star systems. I can identify with most star systems that anyone lists. So I remember someone one time on Mount Shasta going, "I'm Palladian." And I looked at her and I go, "And you're a Lemurian and you're Arcturian." And she just looked at me like, and when you really lean back, right, and you just let go and you notice, oh my gosh, I'm one drop of source and all that is. And within that one drop, just like the ocean, the entire thing is there if I will let my mind go beyond what I know.
Right.
And as a knower, it's one of the toughest things. My tip for the summit is it's a recipe for knowing happiness. And that's a play on words, because knowers. I had a boyfriend when I lived on Mount Shasta who said to me, "Honey, you can be happy or right, and you so like to be right." And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was true, because when you innately know something, you want others to know what you know. Yet sometimes they have to get there on their own. And really, that's part of what the summit's about, what the book's about. Cathy, there's 25 of the practices I've been teaching empaths for the last 15, 16 years in the book. So it was you didn't know that. So that is this is one of the biggest whys for Jade, to have done the book was to actually get those into language that can be understood by most people. And we don't even, after the amazing editing, in fact, our editor, everyone, is an empath who wrote a chapter in the book.
Wow.
So yeah. So, she was able to craft the language in such a way that we didn't need a list of terms. So whether someone's brand new on the path and these words are a bit foreign to them, all of it is understandable. People share from their heart and the summit is full of people from like all different walks of life and also all different ways of looking at their empathic gift. And that's what's so juicy about it.
Yeah.
Is it's not a single expert, and there are experts out there and I honor them. I'm saying that, for me, you're the expert in your own life. And, everyone who walks with you, whether it's me or Cathy or someone else, they're there as a tour guide. I remember years ago, one of my handles was magical tour guide.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Mount Shasta, and I've had groups up there. And as we chant to the Milky Way galaxy, I have watched it in our vision, literally spread the thin line that goes down the middle and make it bigger. And that didn't happen once. That's happened a few times. Last time we were up there, I could see all the stargates. They were in this red configuration of geometry, and then the stargates, and I'd be like, "You're a stargate," and then we go. So we all are going to experience things differently. The women sitting around me had totally different experiences.
Of course.
Now with the galaxy, they all could see. They were like, and I'm like, keep chanting.
Isn't that cool?
Keep chanting. So we affect our world.
Yes.
And we affect our reality. And that what's important to me is that people have tools and awarenesses that allow them to be okay. I mean, those are some of my favorite words. Cathy and I worked on this years ago. It's okay. You're okay. It'll be okay. And it doesn't maybe feel like it. And empaths, that phrase that people will say to you, "This too shall pass." It's true. Now it passes, and sometimes you can still have some of the experience, but you're having it in a different way.
Right.
So really, we put this book together and the summit together to support people in expanding their perceptions and understanding themselves so that they can continue their own personal evolution.
Fantastic. Well, I can't wait to get my copy now that I know what's in your chapter. So Jade, the other thing is that trust is you brought it up several times, and that's been a big thing for me, although I'm getting better. That they really, if there's a path and there's a Y and you take the left and you should have taken the right, I believe now you'll still get there. You would just go around the bend and get there. But what would you say to people that are just, they might be calling themselves highly sensitive people? Because that's like a category, a medical category now. What would you say to them? Because chances are they're not enjoying it.
Right. Yeah. And I technically am an HSP. Yet I have met highly sensitive people who experience energy differently than I do.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And yeah. So when you start regulating intake of energy, and when you clean up stored unprocessed energy, instead of calling it negative emotions or whatever, if you have stored unprocessed energy that can viscerally affect your body and can make you even more highly sensitive. That's what I noticed with this activation of trauma in my body in August from the fire. I noticed that, oh my gosh, like my skin was sensitive. And I have met HSPs whose hearing is so sensitive that they walk around. We know someone who wore Bose headphones for years. It was a car accident that that created that big change in her sensitivity of ears. Yet, you know, if the label is making it stronger, call yourself a wonderful person, right? Like I'm a
I get it.
I'm highly sunshine, you know. And you
Well,
brought up something, yeah. I'm highly.
I think it's a superpower personally,
I
and
do too.
I've looked at it that way my whole life. In fact, Greg is on here. Greg and Omar are here, but I'll put Omar up. I'm not enjoying being highly sensitive. Well,
Yeah.
Greg,
Well,
that's
and
why
knobs and
you need
dimmers,
to know
Cathy.
about Jade, because
Knobs and dimmers.
Jade has tools that will help you pull a tool out of your toolkit when it's overwhelming. The rest of the time, it's information. That's all it is. And you don't have to have your adrenal glands affected every time you get the information. But if you do have them, because that is what happens, it's like, am I safe in my space? I think so many humans had traumatic childhoods that they turned it on and they don't even know they've got it on. They just aren't in their bodies. They're
Yeah,
just,
and I mean Judith Orloff speaks of that
yeah.
beautifully in her book. And yes, I was one of those people. I don't know that I had that big of a trauma in my childhood. I came in so naturally sensitive. And then I did have two things happen when I was 10 and a half. Right after I turned two gifts off, which is interesting. Yet they were experiences. One was a cousin being super inappropriate. We'll go with that. A male cousin being super inappropriate. And one that I don't hang out with. In case any of my family's watching this, one I haven't seen since then, literally. And then I had an abduction experience, and I just figured this out. And I didn't figure it out. It just flopped into my consciousness. A picture of what happened flopped into my consciousness about 3 years ago.
Wow.
And I went, well, this explains why all my progesterone left my body. Which is, of course, my mental plane attempting to, figure that out.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm standing there holding on to a tent rail, and all of a sudden I see this entire experience happen in early January of 1977. And I'm like, oh, this explains so much about the way my body reacted and how my adrenals reacted.
Right.
So.
Well, this is Omar, my friend Omar Fiazi. I'm highly sensitive and can feel people from across the world. I can instantly put myself in someone else's shoes and experience what they're experiencing energetically. Yep. That's it.
Well, and it's a superpower when you can have the capacity to yes or no. Right? But if you're all of a sudden just over in somebody else's shoes and looking through their eyes and really feeling that, it's making energy agreements with yourself. It's setting up yes and no boundaries with your own gift. Actually, 4 or 5 different authors talk about setting up boundaries with their gifts. Some in the summit, some in the book. And Knobs and Dimmers is in the book. Unplug is in the book. Unplug is maybe one way to ask the highly sensitive experience to de-energize. So I don't believe we lose our memories.
He says he can choose.
Oh, you can choose. That's amazing. So that makes it a gift. But there are people who pop, and all of a sudden.
Even if you are picking, I think you have these sessions where the global consciousness is so strong that it's heavy. And actually, it's interesting right now, to tell you the truth, for me. And it's fear usually, or I'm not watching the news, so I don't know what happened somewhere that the news is churning right now.
Right.
So I don't know, but But that's the other part of it, is that when you're sensitive, you get to see and feel things and then choose how to handle it, right?
Yeah, well, and that's like that collective energy body that we spoke of earlier.
Oh, I can feel both of you right now, my chest. Probably in your heart, I hope. Thank
I
you,
hope so
Omar.
too. I hope it's light. It's a little, I like you, Cathy, to this morning, I was like, oh
Heavy.
my, what is that wave?
Yep.
What is that wave? High wave. You need to leave my field. Cathy and I are speaking this morning, and there are other things to accomplish. Well, we've had more energy coming off the sun than I have ever known about. And I haven't been space weather I've been paying attention to probably for 7, 8 years. And, when there were 19 ejections from the sun, different kinds in a day,
Yeah.
And so here's one thing I want to share with expanded, multidimensional, highly sensitives and empaths. It doesn't have to hit the earth plane for you to be affected. If
Right.
you are galactically awake, universally awake, you are getting, when our sun in our galaxy does something,
Yes.
burps, belches, whatever else you want to call what it's up to. Someone's like, Jade, you said the sun burped. I'm like, well, that's what it looks like when a coronal mass ejection comes off.
End.
Yes, exactly what I was
Said
thinking.
yes in my heart. That's nice energy you ladies have. Thank you, dear.
Oh,
He's a sweetheart. Well, see what I'm saying is that photonic energy, that it's not going to stop. It's just it's going to keep going up. It is activating people, and sometimes they'll have anger. I mean, they because they don't know what it is, and they're feeling they don't trust, which is a tool. I mean, it's a skill to learn how to trust all this. If they're being bombarded with this high photonic energy, all their shadows coming out, all their stuff's coming out.
I was in that yesterday in my own life. It isn't like I remember talking to Neil Donald Walsh one day, and he goes, have you mastered your empathic gift? And I said, buddy, I'm 80-20. And to me, that is a level of mastery. Anyone who says they've got it at 100, it's probably their ego having a conversation with you. And that's my personal view, and that's what it is today still. And this photonic light is sensitizing people. It's also taking away my best descriptive is, you have put, and it's so funny because this visual is coming in right now, those little baggies that you put in your dishwasher now. It's like you've put all these things you didn't want to process, feel, or deal with into a little tiny Ziploc bag and shrunk it, stuck it into your energy field. And as this photon light's coming in, it's dissolving all of those things. So like all of a sudden you got all this stuff bubbling up, and it is not like scrubbing bubbles. It is scrubbing bubbles, but it doesn't feel like it in the moment. It feels like anger, shame, guilt. I am hearing massive waves of shame and guilt hitting people. I'm hearing about sadness has been going on for a few years, but sadness. Oh, Jay, there's so much sadness. And I'm like, is it yours? Wow. Right. And it's the collective, in so many ways. What is Greg telling us?
Greg says, I'm learning to have more choice, but have not mastered it yet because he's highly sensitive. Energies have been off the chain. That's what I think. And let's see what Omar said again. I'm learning to control other people's energy around me, because sometimes it can take over. It can be overwhelming and affect me negatively. Yep, that's what we're talking about. What we're talking about is using the superpower of this wonderful opportunity to be conscious of you as a creator being, because that's the expanded state of us, without being burdened, I would say, by stuff that isn't in your field. And what I don't know if you remember, but when you were at my office and I said, I just want to walk into a room and transmute any darkness. And you said, okay. And I felt this like tingle in my body.
I remember.
It was like, that's cool. I better watch what I asked you for.
Well, we're all so powerful, right? Like we are. And you talked about trust, and, a gateway to trust is asking, experiencing, and from the experience believing. I remember the last time I was in Colorado talking as an experiencist, right? It's like I'm standing there in the law school and I'm like, and as an experiencist, as opposed to someone with, and I have a lot of letters behind my name from certifications, yet, really our life experience is what brings us awarenesses and wisdom. Knowledge is in our head and with information, yet wisdom is learned and experienced.
Right.
And again,
Perfect.
everyone's way is their own way.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, like setting up, I have a triple bubble set up personally. I have a 4-foot that's all mine, and then an 8-foot that can be shared with others, and a 12-foot that's available to all. So the others are people that I interact with and know. The 12-foot can be shared with the collective, because as a collective empath, I am constantly, I don't even know if this is in the book. Let me share a quick tip.
Okay.
You know how you said often people can't tell if the energy is theirs.
Right.
So instead of getting that specific, because sometimes it's hard, I ask the question, is this energy for me to have in my physical, emotional, or mental field? And I'll get a yes or a no. So mine can be a gut response. Push down is no. Warm up is yes. It can sometimes be visual, and you can set how your communication tools work with you. You
Right.
can ask, show me the best way to work with you. It could be automatic writing. It could be dowsing with a pendulum. It could be, body sensing. It could be kinesiology. I teach Ask Yourself, which is a lean kinesiology in the book. Because that one's super powerful. Ask your higher self to connect while you do it, or whatever you call your non-physical aspect of your highest consciousness. So, with that, you then go, okay, so if you get it's not yours to physically, emotionally, or mentally deal with, ask your spiritual self to do the work.
Perfect.
And if it is not yours at all, and you can discern that, back to the field of source creation for the work. Turn it over is another one. I think when we worked together, we probably called it surrender. I still see a white flag, so I've stopped with the word. Words to me, as a trainer of neuro-linguistic programming, at this point, no words are wrong or bad. What do they make? Imagery do they make for me? What do they represent for me? That is how I choose my words. I choose different words. Now, if surrender to you just means to lay back and let go, then you surrender. The practice is called turn it over. And that's another way to move it out into your spiritual field.
Yeah, they had something similar to that in Avatar.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so another question, because Omar's on. Omar is fascinated with the origin of humanity.
Okay.
And you've studied so much of the Hawaiian shamanic practices.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any tidbits since he's on about that won't
For
take us
me
off topic?
Yeah, for me, Hawaii connects into Mu. And like the origin of humanity, I can literally see 7 spots on the world, and it was all seated simultaneously. That's the visual I get when I ask today. There's literally 7 bright lights around the world. And, we probably as human beings will never know, just like we won't know why we call it Earth. Like, why is it called Earth? What we make things mean things, and from there we make more meaning.
Right.
And eventually you blow your mind enough where you're okay with there being no meaning, or you get inserted by Palladians. I mean, you get weird things happen, and then you just kind of go, okay, I'm just going to be in the moment and in this experience and see where from here, what's next, and what's truth for me. Right.
Okay.
And not me, Jade, but you, what's your truth?
Right.
Right. Like, yeah.
Well, so the evolution of our species is happening. Earth is Earth is probably already ascended, and we're just coming along. And we're going into the age of Aquarius, which is going to be peaceful. And part of what is happening is people are learning to get along. This empathic upgrade is what I'm calling it, is an opportunity for us all to get along, for us all to work together in group and co-create at a really high level. Is that what you're seeing too?
Absolutely. I mean, I see that some things are swinging on the pendulum because they've been way over here. They're swinging way over here. And I keep envisioning us here, John Lennon's Imagine plays in my head almost every single day of my life.
Oh, wow.
My high self sings to me, always has, brings me songs over and over, to change my state with ease. And really for me to give me a bit of a confirmation of what I've chosen to be engaging with. And, on March 1st, not only were we birthing this summit and then the book, the 28th of this month, I took on a part-time job playing in a rock shop so I could play with people, and a stint playing with entrepreneurs here in the community on the Oregon coast where I live. So I went from sitting behind a camera like I am right now to running around the world. Yet I could do it from a different speed and in a different way.
Yeah, you're
have before.
Much more grounded. My goodness, if we would put an interview from before and now, it's like, wow, Jade, it's really cool to see.
Oh, thank you, Cathy.
I just remember us meeting at your office when you had the roofing company in Broomfield, and you're like, I got to get everything together.
Yep. And I mean, it's still not together. There are moments in the day, if I turn the camera around and you saw the disarray in this little office that I have right now that I just cleaned up. And then I'm like, how in the world is it in disarray again? Well, because I make choices on what's best for my energy. Maybe more important for me to take a bath or do some yoga than it is to clean up my office. My energy practices are the most important things to me so that I can show up. My sensitivity has increased. I've noticed during and post COVID.
Yep.
I've used my practices and other mitigation tools, some of them being rocks, some of them being other things. Yet, knowing that there are things here to help us, that's really the most important. And, the summit and the authors and the book are all really about helping people get to their own choice.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, this is the global consciousness has to get out of victim and realize that okay. One more thing. Contracts that you made before you embodied can still be altered during this lifetime. Hey, you guys, should I say that again? We do not have to be victims at all anymore.
Nope.
That whole program is, if you so choose, it can be diminished. It can be, I don't even know what to transmuted.
Yeah. Well, and there's that, and then there's the program of the Piscean self last, service to others first. You can serve yourself first from a non-egoic place. Most people call it self-care.
Yeah.
But if you don't put yourself into the equation of life, and I wasn't putting myself as fully into the equation of life as I would like, because instead of walking my talk, I'm about living my word.
Right.
So it's about bringing it into my life experience. And talk is like blah, blah, blah. But my word is a creative force. So walking my word, right? Like living my word, that is where I am. And I work by the river and I live by the ocean. And there was a time, I want to say it was the month of March, that I did not make it to the ocean. It is an 8-minute drive. The river is an 8-minute walk. And I hadn't been to either. I maybe took the dog to the river twice, but I never went for me. And I'm like, oh my. So I work across the street from the river.
No,
So I am going to the river before work for like 10 minutes. And then after work, I'm going to the ocean for 10, 15 minutes. And the difference in how I feel about peopling, empathic and sensitive people, it isn't about working in the rock shop. It's about peopling for 8 hours.
Oh yeah, well you're healing people, just walking in, and the centurions that are in the rocks are protecting everybody.
And they're doing the work, and I thank those rocks, and I drum to those rocks, and I chant to those rocks, and I sage and I palo santo those rocks. And one lady came flying in the door of the rock shop yesterday, and I'm like, hi, nice to see you again. And she goes, oh, I just heard I had to come here. And empaths, I know you hear that. I know you, if you don't think you're empathic or highly sensitive, and people come to you and they go, I just need to be with you. I just need to share with you. Can I sit with you? Can I take you to lunch? Can I take you to dinner? Right. Can I this? Can I that? What they're asking to do is be in your presence, because your presence is a gift to them. And the more we are able to self-resource and really be with our own fields and get them into a place. My new coworker is so sweet. She's like, your energy is yummy. And I said, well, that is so sweet. And I love your energy too. I consciously work on my energy for an hour and a half to 2 hours every morning. Now I can take it down to 30 minutes. Part of that is yoga, meditation. 2 hours is the long version. 30 minutes is a short version. And if I got no time, I get in the car and I do the drain and self-sourcing. And I'm like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about the rock shop is that you're out in the world. And I had that clothing store for 16 years, and people would tell me stuff that I was like, oh my, about affairs, and don't tell my husband. I was like, why did you tell me? But it was healing for them. Yeah. And then I would have to go watch a black and white old movie and cry to clear it.
To move the energy out.
I didn't have any of the tools to get rid of their stuff that it was willingly took on.
Willingly, consciously to listen to them. The energy that our fields naturally will take in, much of it is beyond our awareness. It's controlled by the meta programs, if I'm going to put on my NLP trainer hat. Okay. But we've got subconscious programs that run beyond our awareness. They come out in your language, they come out in your behavior, they come out in the behavior of your body. Science will tell us that our physical bodies are like, 1,000 years or so behind where our mental capacities are. And that doesn't count all of our extra with our technology. Uh-huh. And like my body, I hugged someone one time up in Longmont. Cathy's in Boulder. Uh-huh. And I hugged somebody, and she's a professor in psychology. And she looks at me, steps back, and she goes, you just cleared my entire chakra field. And I'm like, nobody. I didn't think clear her field. That was not something that I consciously, as far as human mentally engaged with. My consciousness through my body did that. So becoming aware of what you're doing so that you can make new agreements, just like you're saying, like with contracts, Cathy, language is important, and rescinding things can be done. There are lots of tools out there. We have huge capacity to change our experience. I'm going to go on a little tiny thing. I'm going to start doing freedoming circles in June. Oh, and they're actually taking people through somebody else's work adapted, because she's on the other side of the veil. And literally she asked people to do the work, share it, and to give her credit and give the publisher credit.
I'm getting chills.
Yep. It's super powerful. Super, super, super powerful, because it's a way to change out our team.
Oh, wow.
And it's a way to, and we have a lot of, and those of you who are aware, you know that things can cloak themselves and make themselves seem like there's something that you want to be playing with. And some of us are actually born, this one blew my mind, that my innate consciousness, because of my DNA, could have team repeat as opposed to team new source. So I call it actually the spark that can start anew. So we are conscious creators because we have the spark of creator in us. Whether you call that a God spark, whether you call that a seed atom, whatever you call it anything you want, but you know you can create. Well, there are energies sometimes that make it super difficult. And that's what the freedom circles are about, is to give people the power, their own power, to change that stuff up. And it makes a huge difference for a lot of people. And, some people are living through what they could call hell. I grew up in Catholicism, and I was like, I used to argue about hell. And then in 2010, I was sitting outside in Broomfield, Colorado, Flatiron Crossing Mall. And I heard, Jade, this is heaven or this is hell. You decide. I've been clairaudient my whole life. I was 33 when I found out everyone else didn't have a team they, because they were always telling me things that were helpful the vast majority of the time. I mean, they were never hurtful. Sometimes they did take me in a little bit of a different direction. So that's what, when you look at the team, and we're powerful beings, and everything we've created can be cleaned up. So if, I can just hear people doing this thing in their head. I'm like, nope, you can clean up old conversation energy. You can clean up old creation energy. You can clean up things that you physically made. We are powerful. Cathy, when you and I started doing clears with people out in the world, I want to say a year in, something had changed majorly. I had started working and talking out loud about the multidimensional helpers. And one lady listening to Generation 1 goes, what in the world are these sheets of light that keep coming through? And I'm like, you listen to what? And she told me, and it was a Generation 1 audio, which had no omniversal sheets of light in it, but she was seeing them. Well, so we talked about that, how we make sure that our creations continue to evolve consciously with us.
Right. So, I put stuff in your stuff anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah. But what I'm saying is we have that capacity to keep evolving things that we've already created. So if somebody's team has got Team Yuck playing in the background, you can evolve what you've already created. You have the capacity to change those agreements. And one of the things in the Freedom Link Circle is rescinding those old contracts.
And you guys, Jade, one of the times Jade came here, we had 18 people come. We put together a workshop, and I got 18 people to come, and it was so awesome, you guys. I mean, she is really a good teacher. So I'm sure whatever you're offering after the book, after the summit, please let us all know so I can share it, because I want to take it.
Absolutely.
You mentioned it.
Yeah, so. It's a mighty powerful experience. And, we've had millennia of manipulation on some levels, and that's what you're talking about, Cathy. And it's time for that to come to a halt. Right. And we have the capacity to do this with the awarenesses and then moving into action.
Of course.
And
of course. Yeah. I mean, that's why, and getting a few of us together. Wow. Watch out. That's the fun, is actually during this time a lot. I mean, we all found each other, and then we did co-creators convergence, and we've been finding each other for 20 years, right? Really?
Yeah.
You and I.
Yeah.
And then this 2 years gave us a chance to find all these people from all over the world that also got the same memo. Yeah. That game on. Come on, want to play? And and let's make it heaven. Let's make it fun.
Let's make it. Yeah, we can. The thing is, we're still going to have some contrast, or we wouldn't know it was fun. I forgot my life was magical and I was complaining in meditation. And my daughter goes to me, this was like 2017. She goes, Mom, I hung out with you for 3 days and I forgot how magical life could be. Oh. Look at how magical your life is. And I was literally in that morning complaining that my life wasn't magical enough. So we get really accustomed to living a certain way. And then we have to have a little bit of an awareness so that we can see
Contrast.
the contrast. Yeah. If it was no contrast, it'd be kind of like gray. I prefer iridescent sparkles, but it might be kind of gray. So I'm so grateful, Cathy. Thank you so much for letting me share. And I hope those who are really, resonating will hop into the Empath Insight Summit. And if the book is something for them on the 28th, it is only 99 cents the Kindle copy. And that's the university of the Empath You. That's where the name came from. Like you being your own university and you getting information from multiple people so that you have like this broad spectrum education of information and then resources.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. And it is all about the resources. We're more powerful than we know. Yeah. And it's time for us to find the tools to make sure that we can have some fun. Oh, good. Oh, wonderful. Joanne's here too. So, Jade, I've been putting the banner up.
Okay.
Make sure if people want to work with you or find out more about your work besides the summit, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Reach me at my website, which is my name, Jade Rehder, and JadeRehder.com. And that is where everything is at. It's an ever-changing dynamic. Of course, I'm in another rebuild because that's what we do. We continually change and evolve things.
Oh my God. Well, I hope I get to play with you more this year. I love working with you, and I really, really respect what you do. I can't recommend her stuff enough. Honestly,
so much,
years later, well, I don't know, 5 years later, I've still used those clears, the Generation 1.
Yep. They're good. And everybody who hasn't experienced a clear under free resources, per this wonderful Cathy Mason, we have the drain in audio, we have self-sourcing in audio, and then we have clear stored anxiety, which I feel is one of the things between the photon light, which accelerates all of the energetics on the planet. We've got 5G, we've got all of that is increasing anxiety in most people. That's how some people find out they're empathic. They just all of a sudden they start having these massive anxiety experiences, and then it's like, whoa, okay, I'm bringing in more than I knew I was. And that's one of the triggers going on right now. So that's why clear stored anxiety is there, because it's something that I feel everyone should have access to. Right. It's right under free resources, Empath Relief.
You're so generous. And thank you for all the work you do. Thank you for all the sharing. I hope I get to see the rock shop sometime.
I hope you get out here too. That would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have to sign off now, but thank you, Jade. And I miss talking to you. We need to do this more.
We do. Thanks so much, Cathy. Thanks, audience, for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Love you. Love you.
Love you too. Aloha.
Aloha.